Welcome to lesson 3 of the Swift fundamentals. So when I first learned Swift, an else if statement made sense, right? If something's true, run that block of code. If it's false, run the other. But a guard statement, however, it rather seemed daunting. In fact, the name itself doesn't really tell us what it does. So one day I was taking a nap. I woke up like great scientists do. Just kidding. I discovered a guard statement is nothing more than writing an else if statement, but just a little different way to go about. Well, in this lesson, I'm going to walk you through it. How to use guard statement, why we use guard statement, the benefits. The ultimate purpose of using guard statement is that it promotes zenness. If you never heard about this word, the term zen, well, it's actually the word coming from Buddhism. It provides emptiness, cloudiness, a lot of space between. So when it comes coding, you definitely want to have those features. You don't want to put things into one basket. It looks like a lot of code at the same time. Guard statement, however, separates and allows you to do that. So now let us find out through the examples. Let's begin. Alright guys, welcome to guard and defer statement. In this lesson, there are two problem statements we're going to take a look at. The first one is there any alternative to writing an else if statement? Okay, and of course we're going to take a look at the flaws of else if statement and how to go about it. And the second one is, how do you safely unwrap multiple optionals? In the past, what we did was we tried to unwrap one optional at a time, but in this lesson, you're going to learn how to unwrap multiple optional in a single sentence or single block of code. Okay? So the primary focus of this lesson or this course, or my purpose of me existing is actually to promote zenness. So what I mean by that is, well, a trait where peace, calmness, and inner awesomeness are all intertwined based on UrbanDictionary.com. Well, the reason I'm teaching this course is I want to promote this kind of feeling when it comes to coding. You know, just feeling nice and zen, nice, peaceful, cloudy, just emptiness, you know. It actually comes from the Buddhism, philosophy of Buddhism. You just want to make sure you write code that provides some sort of a happiness, okay? So we're trying to do that in this course. Hope I'm making myself clear. Okay. If I'm not making sense, well, you're gonna see some of the examples, and you'll find what I mean by zenness. Okay. So let's take a look at your past. How you did in the past, starting with a typical else if statement. Let's create a function that contains a conditional statement, whether you can drink something. That can be water, or it can be any substances. Okay, it contains a function called check drinking age, and it contains a constant called check can drink true. Okay, and if it's true, then print this statement block, and if it's false, then you go through this let me take it to jail block here. All right, typical, just simple conditional statement with an if else, right? But here's a problem. What if not only you can drink, but you also have to be an ant? Okay, how do you go about that? Well, you're gonna write like something like this: is ant, okay, and then you have else here, and then you also have to be also a you also have to be, let's say you also have to be a human, and you know it gets really, really complicated, and you see a lot of brackets here. You don't want to, you never want to code like this, okay? So here comes the limitation of using a typical else if statement. As soon as you have more than one conditional statement, it becomes super hard to read, and you don't want to waste your calorie solving that problem, right? There must be a better way to go about it. So this typical issue with an else if statement, nested brackets. We've seen it before, right? And also you have to read the entire thing. This is what I mean by that. So typically when you're writing an else if statement, the else part is where you handle the error. For example, let me take you to jail is an error message. Hey, you're not a human. You're not a human. Hey, you're not an ant. All right, this is the else part. What it does, right? But the problem is when one of your teammates is reading your function, they don't really necessarily want to read the entire thing, especially when the function gets like 50 lines or 60 lines of code. They have to read. Have to go through the entire function to understand what the error block is, the error message is, and yeah, you don't want to waste time. So that's why we introduce a guard statement, and guard statement obviously try to solve these problems with a typical writing an else if statement. It's very similar to an else if statement, but a little different. We're going to find out what it is. Well, the first difference is that we are going to handle the error part in the very on top of the in the very beginning. So if it's false, then tell me something. All right, I think using an example is better. So we have a I can drink constant is false right now, and we have a check drinking ages, right? We have s here to make sure to differentiate from the first function. There's no s here, and all you're gonna do is, okay, let's just bear with me for a second. I'm just gonna write down guard, write down guard, I can drink, else print you cannot drink. I'm gonna explain to you. You cannot drink, you can't drink, and then return. All right, let me explain to you. So here we go. When you run this block of code, when you run this function, what happens is it's gonna go through this guard block, okay? Guard block from here to here. You have to write else here. That's just a statement. That's kind of rule that comes along with using a guard statement, right? When you're writing if else, you have to use else instead of using something else, right? You use the word else, right? That's rule applies to guard statement. So you put a conditional statement here, right here, which is true or false, and then this block of code is only executed. I can drink is false, and you're gonna execute this block of code. So if it's false, you're gonna print you cannot drink, okay? And then it's gonna have return. So what is return here? Return means you're gonna exit out of the function, right? You're not gonna no longer bother after what comes after. When you hit the return keyword, you're just gonna exit out of entire function. No more code after. So if it's true, what happens if I can drink is true? If I can drink is true, what happens is simply ignore the guard block. So when I can drink is true, what happens is you'd simply ignore the entire block. Okay, so and after block, let's say you enjoy your night. Okay, so let's try this. Like drinking ages on the bottom here. Right now, as I can drink is false. So as I say, if as I can drink is false, you're gonna execute this block of code. And if you see on the bottom here, you cannot drink. Let's make it more interesting. Let me take you to the jail. Let me take you to the jail, right? You don't want to drink when you're underage. Yeah, you cannot drink it. And but what if the I can drink becomes true? What happens is now simply ignores entire function. It's similar to like this. Just simply ignores it and then just print enjoy your night. Okay, so what's the advantage of using a guard statement? Using right now the syntax may not look as familiar. Again, remember you have to put guard, put a conditional statement, conditional here, and then put an else here, and then you also have to put return. That's a rule. And the problem is, the benefit of using is first of all, you see how there's no bracket on the bottom here. Just only one bracket that contains a function. Okay, that's it. And then compared to this, this is hideous. I mean, this is not that bad since we only have one logic here. But when it comes to a few more, it gets tougher to solve this problem. But when it comes to this guard statement, it's very easy, nice and easy. That's why I love using guard statement. Okay, and you don't have to read the entire thing. First of all, again, as I said, you're gonna handle the error part, the false part in the very beginning of this function. So which allows you to simply ignore. All right, if it's something happens, all right, I don't have to read the entire function to identify what the error message is. You don't have to read the entire function. It's not being placed on the bottom here. It's placed on top of the function, right? So you can simply, oh, okay, this happens when this thing happens. All right, sounds good. Let me move on. So it puts less, what do you call that? It consumes less calorie for your brain. Okay, let's put it that way. Anyway, so you can do something like this. You may move on, come on, you may leave, you don't have to read this. The only one bracket on the bottom, feeling zen. All right, that's what I mean by zen. Hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. Being zen is important, okay? So not only guard statement is useful for replacing a typical else if, but also it's amazing for replacing, using for unwrapping optionals. That's the focus of this lesson, right? Any alternative to writing an else if statement and how to safely unwrap multiple optional. That's the second part. But first of all, we're going to start with one by one, not in a single line, one by one using typical else if to show you how tedious it can be. Okay, so let's you have a public name. Let's say this is a picture from Facebook. Let's say this is a code from Facebook that you got it from. Bob saves, and public name 20 years old. And then I'm gonna introduce to the worst nightmare using an else if statement. And you don't even want to copy this line of code because you don't want to contaminate your habit of writing it. I just want to show you for the sake of this example, you never code like this. Please don't. Okay, so unwrap one by one. If let name, public name, if let photo, I hope you guys will get what I mean by that. There's like a little gigantic pyramid going on right there. It's indented, nested. It's not good. Okay, please don't even code like this. You never want to do something like this. If you're working with a teammate, if I'm working with the teammates, if that teammate something codes like this, I will get probably mad or be nice to teach how to do it the right way. And yeah, it works. Certainly works. It's not the worst way. I mean, it works. Okay, but we can do slightly better. Slightly better is just unwrapping one by one. It does add more lines of code. For example, just like this. And I'm just gonna copy paste it because I think it's just simply else if statement. So unwrap better if let name, public name, print yes name, else print no name. And there's return part. The return part is exactly identical as what you've seen on the top here. Just gonna exit out of the entire functions, right? You're not gonna run the if let. Just gonna simply exit out of the function. Stop the function. All right. And yeah, I hope you guys are following me. All right. If you have any questions along the way, you can always ask me on Udemy. I always reply to my students, and yeah. So hope you can see where I'm coming from. But now let's try to replace this with a typical else with a guard statement to unwrap optional one by one. Okay. And this time let's try to write it down. So unwrap one by one. Unwrap one by one with guard. Okay. With guard. And you can simply you have to guard let name equals public name, else print name missing, and return. Again, just to repeat myself, guard statement is also used for you can say, hey, if public name exists, simply ignore, or let's write it down. If public name exists, let's say it is not nil, ignore the block. If public name is nil, run the guard block. Okay. If it's, hope that makes sense. The name is missing, and you're gonna hit the return. You're gonna exit out of entire functions, and all you have to do is just repeat yourself like that. Guard photo, public photo. If a photo is missing, then print this. Photo is missing, and then just exit out of entire function. Same thing applies to age as well. So now at the end, what you have is this beautiful constant floating around called name, photo, and age. And look right here, there's no bracket. It's amazing, just nice and simple. That's why I use a guard statement for unwrapping optionals, and we are gonna use guard statement over and over again. Remember, this block, guard block, only is executed if something is false or something is nil. Okay, so now let me introduce you to the second objective, which is how do you safely unwrap multiple optionals. So far what we've done is we try to unwrap one by one. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Look how many lines you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many lines you have? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that is a lot less line. That's about it's a lot fewer lines of code, right? That's why you also like to use guard, because it's just simply shorter and makes your eye, feel less burden. Anyway, let's go to the second objective, which is learn how to unwrap multiple optional in a single line. And there's no big difference. First of all, let's begin with an else if statement. Okay, it's typical else if statement. It's function unwrap, and if let name equals public name, All right, but here's a public name. But here's the difference. The only difference is you are going to continue off just let photo, comma, let photo, public photo, comma, let age. You don't public age right there. And you don't have to it simply allows you to do that. The Swift engineers have designed the language like this, and you can simply use this amazing feature. And you can use, hey, your name is something. I see your face right there. You are something, okay? And you can simply write the else block here. Print something is missing. So what's happening is, here's a problem. If any of this public name or contain nil, what's going to happen is it's going to run this something is missing block. In order to satisfy the first condition, you have to have non-nil value for everything. So right now, if you take a look at this, these are all non-nil, right? But if you change the public age to nil, what's going to happen is it's going to say, hey, something is missing. Let's run the function here. Something is missing on the bottom. Let's take a look at it. Something is missing on the right here. But of course, if there's a value for public age, then here we go. Your name is Bobly. I see your face right there. Bob says you are 20. Okay, sounds all good. Okay. But here's the biggest difference between this code and this one. On the top one is that you're not unwrapping one by one, but that means you don't exactly know what is missing. All right. Sometimes name could be missing, sometimes photo could be missing, but you're not exactly can tell you what is missing. All right. That's the only flaw of using this method. But I think for the sake of readability, I think it's better. But sometimes you have to go with this method depending on the situation. Okay. And now let's try with unwrap with optional using guard statement. Or you learn how to unwrap multiple options using else if. No, now with guard statement. There's not much difference. Let func unwrap with the guard, and the only thing is guard let name equals it's becoming pretty tedious now. Let photo equals public photo, and then let age equals public age, and then you have to add else, and this is a false. This is nil part, right? I'm just gonna copy paste. If one or two of the variables will contain nil, then something is missing, so I'm printing it right there. And if not, simply ignore the guard block. If everything's good, simply ignore the entire guard statement. You can write like something like that. Your name is this. I see your face right there. You are 20. And you can add more code here, animation logic, networking with your server, and more code, but still feeling zen, all right? Look, there's only one bracket in the bottom. Okay, this is why we use guard statement a lot compared with this code. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, not bad. Anyway, but at least you have no bracket in the bottom. But my point is, when you write using guard statement, it just provides readability and you feel zen. And yeah, hope you guys see the rationale behind why you use certain features. So now let's talk about the last objective, which is learning about the first statement. The first statement is very simple. It shouldn't be long, meaning you want to execute a line of code after, right? Happens after. So to give you a little more professional definitions, this is what they say. The first statement put off or action or event to later time, postpone, okay? And swipe a block of code until the current scope exit. I mean, it simply means that you want to do something only after something happens. So I'll give you the simplest example that I know of. We have the first statement block here, like simple defer, right? And then just defer block here. And then print chill later and print first. So when you run this code, what happens is you're gonna run this print first, and then print chill later comes after. Let's take a look at this. Print first, chill later. So when you have anything have defer, that means it is executed after the later. Okay, that's what the first statement means, and it also applies to a simple for and loop as well. So when you have defer I and first I, you're gonna print the first I and then get the deferred I. Let's take a look at it. First I, defer I, first two, defer two, and first three and defer three. That's it. That's a simple defer. But I don't recommend you to use defer statement a lot, because what happens is it kind of you're expected to read your code from top to bottom, and when you have a lot of defer statement, it kind of just confuses your teammates or yourself, unless you're using like one or twice. Probably should use only once. But when you have a lot of defer statement, things can get really complicated. So it's not the best practice to use defer statement a lot. But if you feel like it, why not? Feel free to. And as long as it provides a better communications, yes, please use it. So I hope you guys understand why we use why we use guard statement, and we've learned how to the problems that might arise with using a typical else if statement to unwrap optionals, and that's why and also how we can achieve solve that problem with using a guard statement. Okay, see you guys later. Keep coding. First, it provides an early exit. Second, no one has to read the entire function to spot those error messages. Well, you use guard statement not just for the sake of yourself, for the sake of your teammates falling error. Well, just kidding. You're trying to separate things out. It provides modularity as much as you can when it comes to coding. Keep guarding and don't defer your learning. See you in the next lesson.